Welcome to the Mango Effect podcast, where every week we explore a range of ideas and inspiration that all culminate in designing the lifestyle that we've always dreamed of. No topics are off limits. We get into the practical, the hypothetical, and the downright juicy stuff. I'm Mindy Rosser, your host and lifestyle cheerleader, and I'm here today to talk about what is the lesson here. You may think, Mindy, what are we talking about? The lesson in what? What are we talking about? So this is a question I actually ask myself every single time that I go through a challenging situation. Once the smoke clears, you cannot ask this question and actually get a good answer. If you try to, prematurely go through an experience, you have to get to the end of it and then look back and say, okay, what was the lesson here? When I'm too distraught or upset or I'm not feeling well or I'm down, recognizing the lesson in something, you are not going to get the right answer. You just have to be patient. You have to get through it. But when I go through something challenging, it's a sign that I have pushed too far in one direction and not enough in another direction. You know, we think about the yin and the yang. So in that moment, in that really challenging space, I like to give myself a lot of room to breathe. I sometimes will fall apart and sometimes it's interesting fashion. Sometimes it is less dramatic. Sometimes it is just very internal where I am spending a lot of time journaling. Sometimes I'm low energy. Sometimes I'm high energy. And I think really being able to roll with the challenging experiences is one of the most important things, first of all, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, because it can be a constant roller coaster ride until you really find that formula that is working for you, that you can just kind of push play and repeat, rinse and repeat. So a lot of us that are in either a pivot, in a stage of transition, there's always something that's transitioning. I think about your life right now. There's something that is in flux, something that is uncertain, something that is changing, something that has changed, and we're trying to figure it out. And all too often, I feel like we look up to leaders or those successful people, you can't see me doing air quotes, who talk about pushing through situations and doing the hard thing. But if we just follow that recipe every time, if we just always muster up the energy to push through something and just grind it out, we are going to end up either quitting whatever we're doing, we're going to be broken, we're going to be completely unhealthy or unhappy because we are pushing in a direction that is not in alignment. I believe there is a better way to achieve that balance, especially as a driven entrepreneur, as a professional, or a person that is simply on a mission to self-actualize. So a little personal story here. This past weekend, as of this recording, I completely burned out. I saw the signs. I saw that there are certain signs when you know yourself and you track certain things. I'm a little bit obsessive about all the metrics that I track. A little bit of a biohacker. I wouldn't call myself a total biohacker, but there are signs. There are signs of burnout. There are signs of sadness. There are signs of anxiety. There are things where you feel like you are riding high, like you were so pumped up and so excited, but it's probably unsustainable. You can't keep up that energy all the time. So there are signs when things are not working in alignment. And I think the beauty of becoming more in tune with yourself and what I'm learning over time as I get older, which is such a beautiful thing. You learn so much more about yourself. You go through so many more of these experiences, which they suck in the moment for sure. Like they are not pleasant. But on the other end of them, you learn and you say, oh, like it was so obvious. Like I was definitely on the verge of burning out. And I tried to do some measures. I tried to, do a little bit of self-care. And I think that is another thing that I will talk about at some point. But self-care, just doing a little bit of self-care is not going to solve burnout. A little bit of self-care is not going to help you create your lifestyle by design. Self-care is important, but it is not the one and only tool. There's a lot of other stuff that is deeper, that is more powerful than self-care. And I think, especially as women, we get told, oh, just do a little bit of self-care. Go get your nails done. Go surf. Just, do a little extra. Get a massage, all of these little things. You're like, no, you don't understand. That's not what this is about. This is about something in my life that is not in alignment. My body is rejecting something, and my emotions are telling me that something is off. And so often we feel that we have to put on this facade just to keep going. We feel that we have to actually, put on a performance when on the inside we're dying inside and something is not right. And we feel either embarrassed or ashamed or afraid to make a change, to talk about it, to get support. And so this happened to me. And on this, a few days ago from when I'm recording this, I actually woke up in the morning and my entire insides were like cramping like crazy. And if you've ever had a nasty stomach ulcer, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's like you feel like it's like birthing a baby, but there's no baby and there's no relief. So I was feeling these intense, it was 4 hours of just solid cramps and no position would take it away. I couldn't get any food down to try to calm it down. So eventually I got some Pepto-Bismol, which is definitely not a good solution. You don't want to take that long term. So please do not take this. Anything I'm saying is medical advice. But basically I took that and I realized, okay, in that moment, I'm like, oh, I just had an ulcer. My body is rebelling. My body is telling me that something is not right. I slept for like 4 hours that morning, which is unusual for me. And I just had to let my body be. And it was really difficult. And it is very difficult, I think, when my partner, he was watching me suffer like that, and there was really nothing he could do. And I think it's very, very challenging because you think, oh, I should have prevented this. It's my fault. And we start putting a lot of this inner blame on ourselves. And yes, I don't want to say that it's everybody else's fault. Of course, it's my fault. It's my body. I've been putting myself through a lot of stress. But just, I think, taking that moment and realizing, okay, something is not right. Now I know what it is. Now I know how I can fix it. Reach out, get the medical support that I need, get the psychiatric support that I need, reach out and talk to my therapist. All of these things will help us get back in alignment. And I think we're so afraid to talk about it. And it feels sometimes we watch people play out these scenarios in, silly reality shows and TV and movies and stuff, but it's kind of taken to an extreme. But we don't really see real people going through this and talking about their experiences. At least I don't. A lot of the people I follow, it's like we hear all the wonderful things. It's like, oh yeah, I just had a 6-figure lunch, or my business just grew by millions of dollars this year, and I just expanded my team. And it's so interesting to me. I'm like, well, can we talk about the hard stuff? I want to talk about what it takes to get to that level. I want to know about your dark nights of the soul. I want to know what struggles you have had to go through to get to that point, because you're not telling me that. And I think we need to have more conversations about this, because when we look up to these leaders and successful people that in our minds are very successful, we don't hear that side of the story. And then when we do hear it, it's made into like this really pretty, like it's this beautiful story. It's like very well thought out. It's very well crafted to take us on this journey for, it's been polished. And I think that part just is a little bit crazy making for me. So when I am talking to people like you, people like us, people that are real people that are on this journey, that are trying to build businesses, that are trying to make their relationships better, that are trying to build better families, that are struggling with long-term illness, like long COVID, like I've talked about that on the podcast before. All of this stuff has to be taken into consideration. And I feel like there are a very select few leaders that kind of make it to the top or get the megaphone, if that's how we want to define success. And they talk about how wonderful it is, and all you need to do is push forward, and all you need to do is follow my 5-step plan and recipe to get this successful life too. And I think that is crap. That is total crap. Like, tell me the real stuff. So let's have a conversation about the real stuff. And I think when things happen, what is the lesson in this? And it took me a day, like I had to process it. When my body goes kaput like that, it is usually a culmination for me. I know myself pretty well, but still I get caught off guard all the time. I know that it's related to long COVID. So my immune system definitely gets depressed, and immune system depressed, not like sadness depressed. But that also does cause the anxiety and depression. And it has a lot of other symptoms like brain fog. And also I've noticed different issues with allergies and intolerance to certain foods, like upset stomach. And I've been losing my appetite for, several weeks now, and I knew something was up. So it's really paying attention to those symptoms. And I think creating a business and a lifestyle that actually works with our reality. I think instead of like creating like, okay, we set these goals. I love setting goals. You heard me talk about goals last week. I love setting goals and I think they are so important. But when we set goals, they need to be built on something that is sustainable, something that makes us happy, something that is not just a goal somebody told us that we should create and strive for. And I don't know about you, but I'm an Enneagram 3. If any of you are familiar with the Enneagram, Enneagram 3, everyone thinks it's like this great, it's this great one to have because you're the performer, you like accolades, at least that's the perception of it at least. You like to strive towards goals, you're like a driver, everyone thinks you're productive and how do you get all this stuff done? But I think so many Enneagram 3s on the back end really feel the burnout and feel out of alignment. And I know it's not even just Enneagram 3s, a lot of us feel that same way, but I think it's amplified. And I think because success and the good stuff is celebrated, we don't allow space for the emotions that aren't those positive, happy emotions. And I think sometimes we just need to feel those emotions that are not so pleasant. I feel like there's this yin and this yang, and I like the yang better. I like being on top. I like having tons of energy. I like performing. I like giving a presentation and people getting super excited and motivated and then reaching out to me saying, Mindy, that was so motivational. We just love your energy. But the downside of that is it takes so much energy from me. And I realize that I actually have to pace myself. I have to pace my energy. I have to be more thoughtful with how much energy I'm putting out. How do I actually navigate, taking advantage of the times when I do have good energy while also planning for the times when I might not have so much energy. And I tend to set goals based on when I'm feeling good because that's when my brain works. And so I am learning right now, like you are here with me as I am learning this lesson, to actually create a business, create a lifestyle that works and feels sustainable even when I am not riding high, even when I have low energy, even when there are a couple long COVID days in the week where I cannot be as productive as possible. How can I actually use that to my advantage? How can I turn those long COVID days into days of spiritual exploration, where I am actually going inside of myself and learning about myself and allowing my body to teach me something? Because I feel like I just like to keep going and I like to be in motion all the time. And I feel like, if you want to get a little woo-woo here, I feel like sometimes the universe is telling me, Mindy, you got to slow down. Like you say the spiritual stuff is important to you. You say meditating is important to you, but you actually never take time to do it. So I'm going to make sure that you take time to do it. And I'm going to make you slow down, whether you want to or not. So there's a lesson there, right? There's a lesson there. And so when things happen to us, instead of just getting upset, we need to feel those feelings. So please do not put away your feelings and pretend they don't exist. I've done that, and that doesn't work out so well. You still need to process those. You still need to get support from the people on your team, people that professionally, like if you need a therapist, if you need a business coach, if you need somebody that can help you with your family, if you need somebody that can help you, especially like as a caregiver. My husband and I, we kind of switch roles sometimes. Like I'm helping him when he's having mental health issues, and he's helping me when I'm having long COVID days. So we kind of switch roles. But having that support system and putting that in place is so, so important. And I realized when this hit me, I'm like, I stopped going to my long COVID appointments with my doctor. I was like, I'm fine. I feel great. And now it's like, I need that support. I had stopped going to my therapy sessions. I thought, I'm good. Life is great. I'm fantastic. And now it's like, I should have kept those appointments going. So it's kind of this funny thing where I am reminded that we need a balanced life. And a great lifestyle by design requires balance. And does it mean that we need to give the equal amounts of energy to all of these different areas? No, not necessarily. There are going to be times where you're going to be more focused on your relationship, especially if you're getting into a new relationship, if you are, moving on to a different relationship, if you are single, if you are getting, if you're having kids, all of these different avenues and changes and transitions in our life require a bit more energy. But I do think it's important that when our body or our emotions or our brain is not in alignment with what we're doing, if we feel like different senses and emotions, like something is not quite right, I think it's up to us to actually tune into those and listen. And that is hard for me because I like to just pride myself on the fact I can just do it. It doesn't matter. I can knock out more on my to-do list than anyone else. It's like these senses of pride and ego. And sometimes I look at myself, I look at my ego-filled self, and I just kind of laugh. I'm like, oh, that's funny. Just wait, ego self. You're going to come toppling down because you think you can just ride on that ego. And, it's kind of funny when we actually look at it from different perspectives and different lenses, and when we can actually laugh at ourselves and just say, oh, there you go again, Mindy. I think we do need to have a sense of humor in these things. I do think we need to be very, very thoughtful, though, and get that professional and medical support when it is appropriate. I think too many people struggle on their own, and they think they can just work through it and not get that support, and that's very, very dangerous. So if you're in that place, you're like, I probably can just muster through it. I'll read enough self-help books, I'll listen to enough podcasts, and I'll feel groovy. I would say please get support. I think even just talking to a friend, if you don't feel comfortable talking to a professional, that can help a lot. Talking to a friend, somebody that you trust, and then seeking additional help if you need it. So for me, I'm really in this place where what's the lesson here? What can I learn? I journaled a lot yesterday because my brain came back online, and I thought, okay, there are some things that need to change. I actually need to look at my business because that's one area that I have been driving so hard. And it's like I love my business, but some moments I don't love my business. So I'm going to figure out how I can, I know this may sound corny, but how I can fall in love with my business again. I've been an entrepreneur for more than 10 years, 10, 12, something like that. So I understand what it's like. This is not new to me. But I feel like I've fallen out of love with my business, and that there are certain elements of it that could be just, I was talking to my partner about this, and we're like, it's kind of like building Legos, and you build like this really cool Lego thing, and you're like, I want something different. But you still have all the pieces. So you take all the pieces apart and you build something else that's like really cool. Like my son has this one that's like a 3-in-1 Lego kit, and you can build like 3 different types of dinosaurs. And it's like, okay, the Tyrannosaurus Rex is cool, but why not try the Triceratops? So for me, it's like, okay, I have all of these wonderful pieces to my business that I have built. I don't want to just destroy it and, blow it up and just say, I quit. This is too hard. It's more like, okay, I have the pieces. So how do I put these pieces together in a way that is exciting, that is energizing, but that also allows for that space? Like if there's a moment in time where, like, for example, in my case, I do a lot of live presentations. I do a lot of webinars. I do a lot of live streams. I do a lot of podcasts. I do a lot of stuff that requires me to be live and high energy. So for me, I need to be really, really thoughtful about how many calls I'm doing and also how many presentations I'm doing. I cannot do 2 really great presentations in one day. That will burn me out for a week. So knowing that about myself, it's really going back to the drawing board and figuring out, okay, where is my time best invested? How am I building in all of that recovery time? How am I building in breaks? And my partner, Jason, he is so wise, although sometimes I get angry at him when he tells me something that I already know in my head. He's like that Jiminy Cricket on your shoulder sometimes. You're telling me complete common sense, but I'm going to do it my own way. That feeling. But he was like, Mindy, he's like, I know you want to reinvent your business. He's like, that's great. He's like, but I really think you're going to get more bang for your buck if you just reinvent your day. And he's like, you love this anyways. You actually enjoy, you get off on let's see, how can I restructure my day and build in all these healthy habits? So we talked through that. And, things as simple as instead of standing at my desk to eat my lunch and shoving it in my face, actually taking a lunch break, sitting at the table with the kids because they're home for the summer, or with Jason, my partner, and just having a good conversation for 20 minutes and allowing my stomach to adequately digest my food and actually take a breather, or read a good book instead of, trying to cram in some more client work. So it's these simple things that sometimes they are so simple, sometimes they are staring us in the face, and we have to go through a challenging moment where our body or our brain or something breaks, and we say, okay, I'm listening, universe. I'm listening. I really don't want to go through this again. What do I need to fix? So when you can recognize the lesson, you can improve on your last experiment. And we've talked about that a little bit on the podcast, running mini lifestyle experiments. And it is like bumper bowling. Like, you are never going to get it just right. Like, I always think, I can craft the perfect day. I can craft the perfect week. I can craft the perfect business, and all of my calls will just align, and I will have all the energy I could ever want. But it never works out that way. It is like bumper bowling. And so you learn. You try things. You're like, I can do 4 calls in a day. Like, nope, I think 3 is my max limit and 2 is ideal. So it's these types of things that you just learn along the way. You keep hitting the bumper when you first start out, but as you grow in wisdom and as you get more life experience, business experience, if you're applying this to entrepreneurship, you're able to strike again and again, and it becomes more consistent. So I think that's what I am reminding myself right now. I feel like I'm talking to myself a lot today, but I hope that it's helpful for you too, because it is just so important that we try things, though, and that we don't just up and quit because it gets too hard, but we do take moments to pause, to say, okay, all right, should I add the bumpers back on to the bumper bowling, or should I, should I keep, throwing the bowling ball? I can't even say that correctly. Throw the bowling ball down the lane, something like that. It's been a long time since I've gone bowling. Can you tell? So everyone wants to give out these pep talks. And I give them out too, that says, you can do it, just keep going. But when somebody actually follows that advice without reprieve, without a break, it's one of the quickest ways to burnout, one of the quickest ways to unhappiness, to depression, to anxiety, to feeling out of alignment. And sometimes it can be so, so subtle. Like, don't wait till you have a stomach ulcer for 4 hours to realize there was a lesson that you needed to learn. You can look back I was looking back in my journal and I saw all the signs. I'm like, I'm on the verge. I'll do a little more self-care. And it's like, no, I should have actually stopped before I got to this point. So pay attention. Pay attention to your body. Pay attention to different symptoms. Pay attention to your moods. And I know sometimes we are told to just kind of, be strong and just, we pump our brains full of motivational stuff or music to get us psyched up. But that only goes so far. So when people burn out, I also feel like there's not this compassion that should go out to people. And I feel like, especially in the entrepreneurial space, it's one of the places it can be brutal. It is, sometimes it's not overt, sometimes it's a little more subtle, but I feel like when people don't make it, or they decide to, go back to the 9 to 5, or they switch careers or something, or they just disappear and we never hear from them again, I feel like there's a lot of judgment, and I want to stop that judgment. Like, just because somebody has switched gears and realized whatever they were doing as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, was not in alignment, does not mean they just didn't have it in them. They weren't tough enough. And I feel like more compassion would be so much better if we could actually have dialogue about why that is. Did they quit because they simply didn't have the energy? Did they not have the support? Did they actually just need to reinvent their days? What was it? And how can we support people? So I encourage you, if you hear somebody that is struggling, listen for the subtle nuances, listen for the telltale signs. If there's a friend of yours, if there's a business colleague, please be supportive. I have a wonderful accountability pod. If you're listening, hello. And they meet with me every single week. And they are some of the people that I trust the most. And I have been able to work through a lot of business scenarios with them and just get feedback and support. And sometimes it's not even that you need advice. You just need to feel heard and recognized and feel like people care. And I think if we just did that for each other, all of us that are in the business entrepreneurial space, we'd all rise together instead of viewing each other as competitors and being excited or like, oh, I'm glad that piece of competition is gone. I wonder where they went, or I don't even care where they went. So now I have more market share. I feel like we need to change that. We need it to not be such a dog-eat-dog space. We should be collaborating with each other. We should be supporting each other. We should be elevating each other. So if there is somebody in your life, in your space that you can elevate, do that. Listen, let them know that you care. Share your own experiences. I think if we felt comfortable sharing when we're down, not just our successes, but if we actually shared, the not so pretty side of business and entrepreneurship and changing our lifestyles and actually self-actualizing, this would open up a beautiful space for growth and for elevating each other. So this is something that I'm really like toying with in my mind. So if you have ideas on how to actually go about doing that, I am all ears, because I feel like with our community, I'm hearing from so many of you that you're listening and that this is resonating. And I'm really trying to play with this. Like, how can we help each other more? As entrepreneurs, as business owners, as people intent on living a lifestyle by design. All right, so kind of wrapping up for today, what is the lesson in something really hard that you've just been through? Think, if something comes to mind, think about that one thing. Is there a lesson? Is there something that you can take away from that? A lot of times we think of like the silver lining in that experience. And sometimes it's still too early to look for the lesson. Sometimes you need to really go through and feel all the things and get through to the other side, and then you can look back. And then how much are you tuning into your emotions? Or are you just pushing play again and again, hoping that one day you'll just feel better? That's not how it works. You've got to feel all the things. You've got to make sure that you're in alignment. If something is not working, you will likely need to make a change. It doesn't always have to be big. Sometimes it's very small. But you just need to be thoughtful and pay attention, because that makes all the difference in the world, especially as you are working on all these other elements of your lifestyle, because things are going to get shaken up. Things are going to change. You're going to get surprised. People are going to, somebody that you thought was like your best friend is going to end up moving or disappearing or not being a part of your space. So many things can change when you are intent on living a lifestyle that is in alignment with where you are now. And that takes courage. It takes bravery. And it also takes support. So DM me on Instagram to share your take on how you're approaching burnouts or setbacks or challenges. I would love to hear what is working for you, so we can kind of share these ideas and have a conversation. Let's encourage and inspire each other this week and over the next few weeks. If you like what you hear, please subscribe to the Mango Effect podcast wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss an episode. And I would be absolutely thrilled if you love the show. If you want to write a 5-star review, I would be very, very grateful, because we're a new show. So any reviews and subscribes we get will definitely help us as we grow. I will talk with you all on the next episode. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Bye for now.